Thank you for joining us for our next 2020 candidate one-on-one interviews, sponsored by Priority Real Estate Group. For those that haven't watched any of the interviews yet, my name is Cory King. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Mid-Coast Maine Chamber. A little disclaimer up front, the Southern Mid-Coast Maine Chamber does not endorse any candidates. We are purely doing this series just so you have a chance to meet the candidates and get the information that you need as you're heading to the polls or doing your mail-in ballots later on this fall. With that, Priority Real Estate Group is sponsoring this in support of the chamber and also in support of you getting this information. But their involvement as a sponsor is not an endorsement of any particular candidate. So with all that being said, let's meet our next guest. It is Senate District 23 candidate Eloise Vitelli. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, Cory. Thank you for doing this. This is really an important part of this campaign season. Obviously, I think most of us would prefer to be meeting people in person, but we've all gotten quite used to the world of Zoom, and at least we get to see each other's faces, and it's kind of fun. So thanks.
Oh, thanks for doing it. Yeah, that's exactly why we're doing this, so people can see and connect with you, because knocking on doors is hard right now. There are no gatherings. So this has been a really nice way for me to get to understand the candidates, but also I think we're going to get a great response from people watching. So 3 questions, just kind of a getting to know you interview. So let's start with personal bio. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I live here in Rousick. I've been here for over 40 years. I live here with my husband. I raised my 2 sons here. They were graduates of all the Bath schools, Morse High School, and have grown and mostly flown. I have one of my sons who's living in the area, which is wonderful. Worked for almost 40 years, 38 years actually, with an organization now called New Ventures Maine, which is a statewide organization that helps people go back to school, get jobs, start small businesses, and be part of their communities in a number of different ways. Some people remember us as having been known as Women Work in Community, and we actually started as a displaced homemakers program through an act of the legislature. The organization itself celebrated its 40th anniversary this last year. It's just been a wonderful career for me. I did retire a couple years ago and have devoted myself now full-time to my role as a state senator. I'm running for re-election for my 3rd term, although I did serve 1 year of a previous term. So I've actually been in the State House now for 5 years, sort of an odd number. I'm really looking forward to getting back. I also serve as the Assistant Majority Leader in the Senate, which has been a fun role for me to be in. I think it's a role that allows me to use a lot of my skills and talents developed over many years working with people, essentially. Because I find that the role of a legislator is really essentially to solve problems and work with people to do that. And I think I'm pretty good at it. I've been able to get some significant pieces of legislation through the process, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that.
Well, Eloise, that's great. So one thing I forgot to do off the top, some people don't know what district they're in. So Senate District 23, what communities or what areas?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. It's all of Sagadahoc County, and the town of Dresden in Lincoln County is the district that I represent. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. And so just to get into it, because I think it's fascinating for how our policy works, because some people don't know, Assistant Majority Leader, when you say working with other folks, talk a little bit about that, about getting the bills across and working with some of the other legislators and kind of how you do that.
So the majority leadership in the Senate and in the House, but in the Senate is the President of the Senate, the Majority Leader, and the Assistant Majority Leader, also known as the whip, if you will. And so when I first ran for that position, I said, well, is there a job description? What do I do? Basically was told that it's a position that helps to hold our majority together, hold our caucus together, and support our caucus as individuals and as a group as we try to move a legislative agenda forward. But in terms of how legislation happens, it starts with an idea, and sometimes ideas for legislation can come from citizens, from people that I interact with. I have one idea actually that's been put to me already for next session that I'm holding on to, and will try to present when I get back up to Augusta. But every bill in Maine that comes forward gets referred to a committee. And so the bulk of our work happens in committees, and our committees are bicameral, so they consist of both House and Senate members. All the parties are represented on the committees, and we hash things out at that level. I think that's a lot of our strength in Maine in terms of our ability to work together and to come out with something. People often refer to this as sausage making, and in some ways it gets messy. But my belief is that process brings good results. We get better bills at the other end of that process because we've had to work it through together at the committee level in small groups before it gets to the House or the Senate for votes.
And one of the things that I try to get across to people, because I've testified, not a lot of times, but five or 10 times, is what happens in the committee rooms when you're testifying before a committee is so different from what you see maybe portrayed in the media or even portrayed in some of our favorite television shows and movies. I mean, it really is a very frank conversation of people sharing their ideas. And it's nerve-wracking the first few times that you go and you testify anything. Once you realize that the legislature are just regular people and regular manners like you, and they just want to know how these things affect you, and you really start to see the bipartisanship when you get in on that level.
So one of the things that I did as assistant majority leader was to provide some initial training and orientation to our caucus members in their role as chairs of these committees. So how do you be an effective committee chair? And a lot of it is simply using the skills that we all learn from our mothers about how to be polite, how to treat people with respect, how to be fair, how to listen, because you're absolutely right. What we're trying to do as committee members is get the input from the people who know the subject matter, sometimes better than we as committee members do, so that we can then decide how best to craft a piece of legislation that accomplishes the goals that are out there.
Well, I think that's such a great point too, because when someone gets a seat in the legislature, you think that they know everything about everything, and they don't. They just don't. And there's every citizen, there is something that you're an expert on that somebody else doesn't know, and that's why it's so important for our citizens to get involved. So, just moving on, our second question is, why are you running? I think we know why you're running. You're actually continuing to run because you want to make a difference. But let's get into exactly what those differences are and what kind of things you're going to be focusing on for coming up. So why are you continuing to run, I guess is the question.
Okay, so I'm running because I believe I have and want to continue to make a difference, to be there to help solve problems, to bring people together around the issues that are of concern to the people in the state. I think, no surprise, we're facing some incredible challenges as a result of this pandemic and all that we've had to do to adjust and adapt to that. And so what I want to try to do is bring people together around some of the solutions that are starting to emerge. And so I want to be there to support our small businesses. And I've seen some incredibly creative responses to these changed conditions on the part of our small businesses and in our communities. And I want to make sure that we're able to continue to support their innovation moving forward. I want to make sure that we don't leave our vulnerable citizens behind. Certainly this pandemic has shown some of the gaps in who gets supported, who gets the services that we all anticipate, whether that's healthcare, childcare. I mean, we have some big societal issues that we have to grapple with. And it's not going to be easy because the funding is going to be tight. Maybe not this first year, from what I've understood, but certainly in year 2 and 3 as we go forward. So we need to make sure that we're setting our priorities the way I think they need to be, which is to make sure we invest in our people, our families, our workers, and our business owners. Because that's how the state functions. That's why Maine is such a special place, because we have incredibly hardworking people who care about each other, who care about their communities, who care about the work that they're doing. And that's where our support and our direction as legislators, in my view, needs to be.
And I appreciate you talking about how difficult it's going to be. I mean, with the second quarter basically shutting down the state and the economy, I mean, those ramifications are going to last. The money not made there for businesses, it's not like you're going to make it up anytime. It's just gone. But that's the same thing at the state level. There are some revenues that the state didn't get or won't get. It's not going to be made up at another point. It's just gone. And so you're going to face some difficult conversations because nobody wants to cut services. There's no program that everyone's like, oh, that's a good one to cut. I mean, it's all going to be difficult, and it's going to really require negotiation between everybody. Yeah.
We're going to have to weigh a lot of different factors. Now, hopefully, there is still the possibility that the federal government will step up and play a role and sort of soften the blow, not just for Maine, obviously, but for all of our states. But we can't, at this moment, count on that necessarily. So we're going to have to look sort of to our own resources to come up with some of the answers that we're looking for.
Yeah, I've had some conversations and heard some things about possibly some FEMA money that may be coming to the state. But again, nothing is guaranteed right now, especially at the federal level. And there's a lot going on there that I mean, even if we do get it, the timeline might not fit of when we need it. So there's a lot of stuff to deal with. Beyond budget and COVID, which it's hard to get beyond budget and COVID because it's such pressing issues. Are there other things that you want to take a look at, or things that you're passionate about that you think we need to be addressing in the session to come?
Well, I have to mention this because it's pretty fresh, but the PUC came out earlier this week with the announcement that they've given they've submitted bids, or businesses have submitted bids for the new renewable energy procurement process for some new renewable energy projects in this state, which came about as a result of legislation that I sponsored last time. So there are over 17 new projects that are going to be getting underway in this state for new solar, wind, and hydro energy, which is going to create jobs. It's going to reduce our greenhouse gases, and it's going to move Maine forward in the renewable energy sphere. We've fallen behind the rest of our states, but this gives us a chance of becoming a much more viable player in the renewable energy sphere. And I'm very excited about that. One of these projects is in Topsom. And I think that's the path towards the future, or one of the paths towards the future, is to build on that kind of investment. And yeah.
So that started with the bill that you wrote.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, how does that feel? That's got to feel amazing.
It does.
Yeah.
LD 1474, I think I got that number right, was the renewable procurement bill that really just sort of pumped up Maine's ability to move forward with renewable energy.
It's gonna feel great. Okay, that's great. And anything else you want to mention? We have just a couple minutes left. Any other?
The other thing that I'm very committed to, we got very close to it this last session, but obviously when we left town in March, all over 200 bills got sort of hung up in limbo.
Yeah.
But I want to reintroduce it in January, which is the Maine Retirement Savings Program. One of the things I learned over my many years working at New Ventures Maine, Women Working Community, is that a lot of folks in this state and elsewhere don't save enough for retirement. It's not always easy to do, and the vehicles aren't always available to them. And what we also know is that the best way to get people to save for retirement is to have it automatically withdrawn from their paychecks and set aside, so that it's just an automatic money set aside for retirement. This is going to be a critical piece to put in place. I mean, I've seen it happen through this pandemic that people just did not have any kind of a cushion, or too many people did not have a cushion to weather the kind of financial blow that they got through this pandemic. So I'm really anxious to get back and resubmit the Maine Retirement Savings Program. Other states have done it. Maine can do it. We have a model bill ready to go, and I want to make sure that that happens.
Well, that's great. So that's great. And that's a great place to leave us off. But there's so much more that you know about and would love to talk to people about. And so if people want to reach out to you to find out more about what you stand for, or have any questions in particular, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Well, there's two places online. There's a website, eloisevitelli.com. And then my Facebook page is Vitelli for Senate.
Is it FOR or the number 4?
The F. Oh, no, I'm sorry, FOR.
FOR, okay. Yeah, because some are the number and some are, okay. So Vitelli for Senate. Yeah. Right.
Vitelli, FOR Senate.
There we go. Beautiful. That's awesome. I think that's about it. I do want to say to everyone watching the video, if you've liked what you've heard, please share this video. There's chances that you know somebody in this district, if you're from this area, is pretty darn high, considering it's an entire county and Dresden. And I just want to thank Eloise for joining us. And I know you're super busy, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cory. This has been fun. I appreciate you doing it.
Oh, thank you. And one last thank you to Priority Real Estate Group. Thank you again for sponsoring this and helping us get the word out there. If you're looking for more videos like this, on our candidates, you can go to the Chamber Facebook page or the Chamber YouTube page, and you can find them there. And we will see you next time. Thanks again.
Thank you.